I have 7 questions that have been posed to me concerning my story, The Sword Princess, Cathenes' Journey, and I'm gonna answer them right now. The first one is, how did you come up with a storyline for the story? I've seen so many cartoons and animes which actually gave was what I took from them and made into my own story. And one of my friends had said that this story is like Cinderella meets She-Ra meets Elsa. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what it is. Because Cathene did start off as a slave, as a servant. Then she becomes a warrior. And then she becomes, like Elsa, a queen. But it will be over several books till she gets to become a queen. But she is foretold to become a queen. The second question is, how many characters are there in this story? There are over possibly 15 main characters, maybe even a bit more, up to maybe 20 characters, but there are the main characters of this story being Cathene, or Cathene, depends on which name you like to pronounce her name as. There's Tobias, Prince Tobias, who is her father, Prince Eskander, and Princess Taya. Those are somewhat of the main characters of the story. Question 3. Who was Cathene modeled after? People would say, if it's modeled after you, it becomes, your original character becomes the Mary Sue. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Cathene was modeled somewhat after me. When I started this story, I had long red hair. Reddish brown, actually, because I had my hair dyed during that time. My hair is now darker, which is of my natural hair color. And I did model Cathene after me. As in her love for horses, her diligence in walking the pasture, getting rid of the rocks that would come up from raking the manure off the ground and getting rid of the manure. I used to do that a lot when I had horses. I don't have any horses now. And question number 4 is, how did you come up with Cathenes' name? She actually went through several names. Her first name was Tayah, T-A-L-I-S-N. Then I switched it to Canassa with a K. Kasana, I believe, was her name. Then I changed it to Canassa. And that was with a C. And a few people said, that sounds very off. It doesn't we don't picture her with that name. So I went through my books again to look for her new name. I went into the Greek mythology names of all the goddesses. And I came to, it was probably the first name that I saw, Cathene. And I'm like, goddess of war. Yes, that will be part of her name. And then I realized I have the letter C that I have to use. So I put it right in front of the name, and I came up with Cathene, which in the world that Cathene lived is now on at this moment in the book is actually what it means, translated from their language into English, is warrior princess. Yeah, I named her warrior princess, and that is going to be her permanent name, is Cathene. When did you start writing this story? I started writing this story on November 1st, 2012, at midnight. I used this story to ease my heartache, because on May 12th, 2012, I lost my mother to tongue cancer. And it was a very hard, very difficult time for me. So I just basically put all of my heartache and pain into writing this story. And I hope I do it justice. And here's question number 5. Why does the main character Cathene play the flute? I don't play the flute. I don't. I have no musical talent. I can't even really sing very good. I like the flute because it's beautiful sounding. It really soothes a lot of my nerves when I have it playing in the background when I'm writing. And I figured she should be talented in something beyond being a servant. So I gave her the chance to play the flute. And in the story we hear, it's in the first chapter, you actually find out that she was a music teacher and she played the flute. But the school that she worked at closed down the music department, which meant she had no job to go to anymore, and she returned home to her mother and father's home to live, and tried to get other jobs where she could tutor kids in the ways of music, though it didn't come out as good as she hoped. Question 7, and this is the last question of the entire list. Why did Taya throw the sword into the gate instead of going into the going in with the sword. I really never really thought much about that and that type of question before. And I'm glad that somebody did ask me this. Taya was deemed the guardian of the sword. She knew where the sword was, knew who the sword belonged to. And she knew if she took hold of the sword from her, there would be a big side effect, which she didn't want to do, and it would have her younger brother, Aurelius, going in demanding his fire witch to open a gate to find where the sword and his sister went off to get hold of the sword. So the reason why Taya threw the sword in alone and didn't go in with it was to keep Aurelius from getting hold of it. And I'm going to leave with just a little tidbit of what the story is going to end up being revealed. When the seven knights catch up to Taya, they beat her. They basically beat her nearly to death, and when they threw her in the dungeon, they didn't drag her in and lay her down. They flung her in, and with the type of damage that she received from the beating, and then being flung into the dungeon, and there is no visits from the court doctor to tend to Taya's possible other wounds, they left her alone. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. If you don't want to hear this, you can move move it up to where you don't have to hear it, because here's the thing. They don't know they killed her. And Taya is probably the only really one that actually knows more about the sword than anyone, till Cathene claims it fully as her own, which happens during during one of the visits in the camp of the warrior band. You will see her do something that will be later on spoken about, which deems her more. Well, the warriors start wondering, could this person be the one? And that's the all the questions that I had. And I did give you a little spoiler alert on a little bit of it. So I hope you, as soon as I get the story fully finished being written, which would probably take me another year to finish, because the muse likes to go to sleep a lot. And I really need to get back to work on the story, so I will say thank you to all those people who sent me questions. And I hope you like the answers. Talk to you soon.